Welcome back, Surfcast Podcast. Today we have a man who needs absolutely no introduction. If you need an introduction, then you probably need to fish more because you probably don't know anything about surfcasting. In case you don't know, though, this is Bill Wetzel. Bill Wetzel is here today on the podcast. We're very excited to have him. If you don't know Bill, again, go Google his name. There's a lot of great stuff out there. Also, check out his website, surfratsball.com. I believe through that website they can also book you for a surf charter. Right, Bill?
Well, I prefer you call. You can't really book through there. You can email me, but if you just call, it's the best way to do it.
Okay. But all the information's on the website.
Yep.
That's right. Okay, great. So today we have Bill Wetzel. We are going to be talking about how we prepare for the fall run, how we handle fishing the fall run, the insanity of it, how we feel about the fall run. We're going to be having some fun today. But before we do that, we have a couple of questions, Bill, that we were thinking about right before we came on. So we're just going to kind of throw them at you. They're sort of random. Mine's a little bit silly, but why don't you have a nickname? Or do you have a nickname? Because everybody from friggin' Montauk has a nickname, or Long Island, but you don't. Why are you not Montauk Bill? Like, literally.
I've had a lot of nicknames at Montauk.
Okay.
They used to call me Rocky Point Bill.
Okay.
Because there's an area of Montauk I fished. I lived there for an entire month and fished there every day and every night. I didn't leave, only to take a shower and to eat and to shit and piss and, you know. So Rocky Point Bill was one. Split ring was another one because, you know, I don't use clips. I use split rings. So they call me split rings.
That's great.
What was it? Something else. Surf guide. You know, we used to use the CB too back in the day.
Yeah.
Channel 10, baby.
Yeah.
I just put mine in a couple weeks ago. So
you're still running it? Still running the CB?
Well, I was. You know, I contact people from Rhode Island. I'm like, how about a Rhode Island? This is Montauk. Yeah, I'm at the Pink House.
Nice. I wonder if we ever talked back in the day when I was running the beaches and I had no CB.
Could have been. I mean, before cell phones, that's what we used, right?
Oh yeah, hell yeah! I was psyched when I first rigged up my first CB and the big bouncy antenna. Oh, I thought I was the coolest shit.
You were. I got news for you.
That's cool.
Nice.
Yeah, I was wondering because I've never really, I as far as I know, I've never heard you say. So I just feel like every time I show up in Montauk, some joker's telling me their name or whatever, Deepwater Dave. I ran into this guy once or whatever. So I was just wondering if you had any nicknames. So I was curious. That's fun.
Yeah, the only thing I've ever heard, Fred used to refer to you as, what is it, the hardest working guide in the surf?
Galifaro?
Yeah.
He said Bucktail Bill. That was another one.
That was
Bill.
That's good. I like that.
Fred started calling me Bucktail Bill.
That's good. That's good. I like that. I
was like, Bucktail Bill, man, that's a new one.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, Toby, your turn.
Yeah, so my question, I guess a little more serious, tactical type thing here. So it's kind of timely. I've been talking with Steve Musso from Super Strike Lures the last couple of days. We've been going back and forth some messages talking about, well, he's watching the podcast, so shout out to Steve. Appreciate that.
Steve!
But one of the early episodes, we were talking about plugs and loading and sound and the baby rattle and how I hate the baby rattle, you know, the BBs in it. So it made me wonder, Bill, what are your thoughts on a plug with rattles, whether it's loaded with BBs or it comes with a sound? Are you a pro sound, anti-sound, or you just don't care?
I don't think I really care. I used to, you know what? When I was younger, I swore by sound. You know, I fished rattle traps back. I don't know if you, I don't know if your listeners know, but we used to have a place, Loco. It was called Loco, and now it's basically a hot water flow. And I used to use rattle traps there all the time. You know, and I used to, I don't think I have it, but I used to experiment. I used to take the Gibbs bottle plugs and I used to drill holes on the side and glue little straddles in the Gibbs bottle plugs, you know? So yeah, I used to like play around with a lot of that stuff. Now I'm like, you know, I really don't have the time. And I don't think it makes a big difference anyway, you know, rattles.
Yeah.
Colors, but I think colors not. I'm up and down on colors. You know, you go up and down. I used to, at first, it was, you know, when I first started when I was a kid, colors. And then I'm like, fuck colors. It doesn't matter. And now I'm like, wow, they definitely have a place. I mean, after all these years guiding, you know, I have people throw one color when I throw others, and I definitely notice a difference a lot of times. So, but rattles, I don't notice I haven't noticed a big difference. That's not to say that there is a big difference, but I haven't noticed it.
I like that.
I have to hijack this already, Toby. I have to hijack.
Yeah.
So I got to ask about the rattle traps. I've heard you say that before. I've heard you say it before, and I forgot until you just said it. There was a whole season. It wasn't that long ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, where I tried to use rattle traps the whole season, and I had some of the really big ones. They still made like
super traps.
Yeah, super traps. They're like real big. I could not catch a fish on them. So what did you do? Like, how were you just casting them out and retrieving them back like any other plug?
Yeah, pretty much. Maybe give them a little tap,
Okay.
A little tap here and there.
And were you using
same
like
thing.
the little freshwater size?
Yeah, well, back then, I mean, they didn't. That's all they made. They didn't make any like big freshwater, like a Sabile size. It was just little freshwater size. Put saltwater hooks on it, saltwater hardware, and I caught a lot of fish on that.
Cast it out and retrieve it back.
Cast out, retrieve it back.
No
Little
kidding.
taps, maybe. Yeah.
I was having. I think. I don't know.
I used to swear by them.
That's really cool because I mean I have tried. I really did try a lot that season. I was going to write an article about it, but I couldn't catch anything with them. So I found a lot. I had 3 different sizes, and the 2 bigger sizes, I was just constantly in the rocks, and that was part of the problem. So maybe I should go down to the small size. I never really thought about it.
I don't know. I mean, they definitely work. Whether it's the rattle that's attracting the fish. I mean, when I was using the rattle traps, a lot of times I would catch fish when other people were not catching fish.
Yeah,
now maybe it was the size and the profile I was using, or maybe it was the rattles. You never know. I'm not a fish.
They have such an aggressive.
Sure.
Yeah. They have such an aggressive wiggle. They must forget about any rattle in them. They put out so much vibration because of how rapidly they vibrate. I mean, it's got to be like a car alarm, underwater.
I remember I must have been about maybe 20 years old or so. And I went to one of the fishermen's lectures, and Doc Muller was there. And, I was a cocky kid. I was a cocky fisherman. I was like, oh yeah. I thought I knew everything. So I asked Doc Muller. He was lecturing. I'm like, how about rattle traps? What do you think of rattle traps? And he gave me like the oddest, dirtiest look. I'll never forget it. It was so funny. Next time if I ever see him again, I haven't seen him in a while. I should ask him about that.
See if he remembers that.
He would never remember that. He would never remember that.
That's funny.
Watch it.
I remember.
It's burned into his memory. He's like, yes, that was you.
That was you. That was you asking all those stupid ass questions.
That's funny. That's funny.
Nice. Well, that was interesting. I didn't think you were gonna. I should have known the rattle trap was gonna go because I have seen you reference that before. But it's interesting point. I never did squat on those, fresh or salt. But anyway.
Oh, I used to kill smallmouth with them. Oh my god, they were like one of my tops. Like the classic chrome one. Oh man.
I don't think I ever snagged a fish, let alone.
You can put them in soft plastics too. Put rattles in soft plastic.
Yeah.
I used to do that.
Oh. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Scents. Used to use a lot of scent. Berkeley Strike. Remember Berkeley Strike?
Oh yeah.
I was a Berkeley Strike kid, man.
Was that
or
the
man?
green,
the green bottle.
Jug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, yeah.
I swore by that. I'm like, oh, I gotta get Berkeley Strike.
That's funny. That's funny.
All right, let's jump into the fall run talk here. Now we've got you warmed up, we got things going, so let's get to the meat of today's episode. I want to start by just something I don't think I've seen you talk about before. Maybe I missed it, but want to know what it is about the fall run, the fall fishing that really fuels the passion for you. Compared to other times of the season, like, can you encompass your feelings on what it means to you deep down? There's something I believe, my interpretation from you, there's something special about the fall run that really gets you jazzed up more than perhaps other times of the season. So what would that be for you?
Well, I mean, I do love the summer. Summer might be my favorite season, actually, like August. But the fall run, I mean, so many things. It's not just one thing. It's, first of all, it's the smell in the air. All of a sudden, like towards the end of August, you come outside and you're like, oh, I can smell it. You can smell it. And when you can smell that, you can just, fucking fish are coming. And then I start seeing, then at the end of August or even mid-August, I start seeing the whitebait. So when I start seeing the whitebait, which is bay anchovies, people call it different things, but we call it whitebait bay anchovies. When you start seeing that, that is a sign that the migration is very, very near, and they're going to be on the whitebait. And it's not only that; it's seeing like you fish the summer. I fish the summer and the spring, and especially the summer. You don't see anybody. I don't see anybody out there. I'm fishing out there all the time, and all of a sudden, you see the guys that you haven't seen in a long time. You know, I've been very fortunate to have a group of guys that I either shared ties with. I like a group of guys like Ruger, Don Musso was in there. Charlie Ruger and Don Musso was good friends, and a bunch of other guys. And they're all older than me. UPS Richie, Wild Bill Dickinson, and it was just, to me, that was like one of the greatest things about the fall, because you get to hang out with those guys, and share stories and listen to them, talk about whatever. I mean, I've seen them argue over a fucking needlefish for 45 minutes, you know, you know what I mean? That stuff like that is like priceless now. I mean, I didn't realize it when it was happening, but now I look back on it, it's like priceless. Like, eating a fried striped bass and drinking a beer and having pasta in the parking lot in Montauk, after fishing. It's just great.
Is that as common anymore? I mean, you just said you don't see as many people. I mean, it doesn't feel to, and I don't know. That's why I'm asking. It doesn't feel like that is as common anymore.
Can I be frank?
Yes, please. Yes.
Well, guys now are a bunch of fucking pussies. That's basically how I really feel. They don't want to put in the work. They want to go on the friggin' internet. Back then, guys would spend 3 weeks, 4 weeks, month at a time. Steve Campbell, I would see him out there. Dude, that guy was out. I had no idea how he got his time off, but he was constantly. So you don't see that anymore. Everybody's chasing. Chase. They don't want to learn anything. They want to chase. Now, I'm not saying everybody, but there's a large group of people that they don't want to learn. And fortunately or unfortunately, that's why it's not as packed out there as it used to be. That I think, because if there's no fish, if the internet says there's no fish, there's no fish.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So that's a really interesting observation, and Toby and I have definitely alluded to this plenty of times on the podcast as well. But what you were just saying about, you lived on a point for a month and you fished it every day. You guys were, on the beach every day for 3 weeks. Nobody's doing that anymore because everybody's afraid of not having instantaneous success. Or is it that they don't care? Or is it that what do you think it is?
I think it's several reasons. The fishery is not what it once was.
Okay.
It wasn't like, back in the 90s, it was really good fishing. I mean, you still had to work your ass off, especially if you were like targeting bigger fish, and that's what I'd like to do, especially before I started guiding. That's what I did. I like to target bigger fish, but so it is that it's the fishery is gone. It's not what it once was. We don't have, last several years we don't have the big blitzes as we once did, and I think today's world, everybody wants that instant satisfaction, and all the old guys are aging out. So they can't make the trip anymore. The guys who did it hardcore, they're just aging out. A lot of my friends are older. I mean, Delaware Bud just recently passed away. You don't know these guys, but, to me, they're like Montauk legends or legends of fishing, really. Wild Bill Dickinson, do you know him? He lives in New Jersey. He's a guy. He's probably the best surfcaster I've ever known, So, and probably Don will tell you that, too.
So two things. First of all, listen to all these nicknames, which is why I was asking. That's the first thing I want to point out. That's why I was asking, because listen to all the nicknames. The second thing is, you mentioned that instant gratification and stuff, and then you said that the fishery was better back in the 90s. But how much were you failing? I mean, how much of those 3 weeks, that month out there, were you casting into empty water? My point being that it's not like you were having tons of success. It wasn't like you fish every cast back then,
right?
Compared to, I know it's tough now.
Well, throughout, throughout the island, it was different. You got the North Shore, South Shore, you got Montauk, but it wasn't like I could go out every night and guarantee myself a 20-pounder. There was many nights where I didn't have any fish, but definitely more of a chance, more of a lot of like 30 plus fish, 30-pound plus fish, and 40-pound plus fish. It was just, and blitzes. The Blitz of 91. Me and Jackie always just talked about the big Blitz of 91. So, I mean, you're talking, miles of fish, not little schools of fish, like a mile stretch of striped bass, just wall to wall for 6 hours straight, as many as you could want. I mean, we don't see that anymore. Now what we're seeing is, we get too many big fish and not enough small fish. The fisheries just changed.
Yeah.
But on the North Shore of Long Island, people don't realize this either. On the North Shore of Long Island, I think you get the Hudson. It's mostly Hudson fish, but around where we are, well, I fish the North Shore too. But when I fish Montauk, around that area, it's primarily Chesapeake fishery. Yep. So, and then you go up north, they have the advantage of seeing all the different, spawning
mix
routes.
of both populations.
Delaware, Chesapeake, Hudson, they get all of it. Yeah. So it's a lot different. So it's hard to tell people that the fishery is not good when they're just banging the shit out of the bass where they are.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well,
just because it's good in your pocket doesn't mean it's good everywhere. Like that exactly. Argument.
Right.
Yeah.
So going back to the fall a little bit here, Bill, and to your feelings.
Yeah.
You talked about the smell and stuff a second ago. When you're sitting at the bench, like you are right now in your garage, I think, right? You're sitting at your fishing bench. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Yep. When you're sitting there and you're sipping your drink and you're thinking about the fall, okay, what are you thinking about? What are you getting excited about? What is it that you're thinking about?
Well, all those things, but I mean, for me, the fall, especially if you get a nor'easter. If I get a nor'easter, still to this day, I mean, I'm unable to think. I'm unable to think about anything else. I mean, that's it. I gotta. Nor'easter's coming. Even the nor'easters aren't what they used to be. A lot of times you'll get fish that day, and then that will be it. But still to be out there in those elements when the rain's freaking cranking and it's stinging your fucking face. You know what I mean? And you can't, and your ears are ringing for fucking 4 days afterwards because the wind is in your ears, and then you can't sleep at night because your ears are ringing so bad. That is where it's at to me. I mean, that's my favorite freaking time to fish. And it gets to the point where there's nobody out there, and it's just they're about to close the park or they're about to close the area, and you're the only one out there, and you're still banging fish. It's the best. I mean, I get goosebumps thinking about it right now. It's crazy, man. It's awesome.
Is it the adrenaline? Is it the danger? Is it just the feeling of it? Do you feel
it
in your soul?
It's a little dangerous. It's the feeling in your soul. It's like I don't know, dude. Fishing's been in my blood since I've been born. I mean, when I can't even remember not thinking about fishing. It's just, I don't know. It's just fucking in me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So that nor'easter goes beyond you just thinking about it. You feel it.
It's just, I mean, when you're out there, you definitely feel it. I remember one time I was fishing the nor'easter, and I had 2 charters. And I'm like, well, I'm thinking to myself, I must have been, I don't know, late 30s, maybe early 40s, probably late 30s. And I'm like, I'm going to do a double. I had a double scheduled, but the double was at night. And there's no way with, 15-foot sets coming in or 12, like there's probably like 12 to 15, 50 knot winds. I could do a night charter in that. You can't do it, So I'm like, I call up my guy. I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a double. I'm going to start first thing in the morning. I'm going to have an hour break where I eat like pizza, and then I'm going to do another one. Well, what you don't realize when you're fishing in water like that and wind like that and waves like that is every cast and every being of you, everything you have goes into every cast and just fucking standing there. So the energy that you use is just fucked up. It's just, I can't even explain it. So by the second charter, I was done with the first. I was like, wow, I'm pretty tired. I was probably about an hour or two of the second into the second charter. And I just back then I do 5 hour charters now. Back then I was doing 6. So after a 6 hour charter, and I went back into the surf, and I'm standing there. It was like you had to be careful. It was like knee to ankle deep of water, but all of a sudden it can be up to your chest. That kind of thing. And fucking wave comes in, it hits me and it knocks me down, and my customer's looking at me. Are you all right? Are you all right? And I couldn't even talk. I was just shaking my head. I'm like, no, no. And you need help. And I start, yes, I'm laying there. All it would have taken is another wave to wash me out. I couldn't physically get myself back. I'm laying there on the beach, right on the shoreline. I couldn't physically get myself back up. And I don't think he came over, and I got myself up with my rod. I just jammed it in I remember all my strength I had. I went. I'm like, keep fishing. I'll watch you. I'm gonna sit on this log. I need the rest.
I'm gonna breathe for you.
Right, I gotta breathe.
Yeah. So obviously, Bill, this goes way beyond fun. And obviously people who've listened to you, I think already know this, but
it is fun.
It's fun. Oh, it's totally fun, but it feels like it's more than just fun for you. It feels like, you're talking about something that's like soul fulfilling, right? This is like a very deep thing.
I guess mentally ill obsession.
Now,
it's a different flip of the coin.
You obviously, we're hearing the passion about it come through. Has there been times where just like with that, the regard for the nor'easter hasn't been there? I say this because there was a time where I absolutely loved it. I was the same way. I couldn't get big enough. And then I went through a phase where I was like, nah, I almost shied away, not so much shied away, but pushed away from that big stuff and preferred in a lot of scenarios not having that big. Or have you just been like all in the adrenaline, the nor'easter, the bigger, the better, essentially continually since you discovered it, since it took hold of you?
Well, I like it all. I love, you go, in the fall, I'm on the rocks every night. Rocks. And all right, here we go again. I'm on the fucking rocks. And then all of a sudden, I got a charter. We're on the sand beaches. I'm like, wow, man, this is so nice to be on the sand beaches. There's the stars. I'm just not getting hit by waves. This is really, really nice. I love it, so it's everything. It's even backwater fishing. I like it all. I do. But my absolute favorite is that big water. I still to this day get juiced. You don't get it every day, but when you get it, man, as long as I can do it. And the thing about the fall and the thing about the season, especially at my age, it's no longer, oh, don't worry about it. I'll be ready. I'll be physically ready for the fishing season or physically ready for the fall. No more. You got it. I fucking got to eat right now. And, I exercise, I lift weights. I got to do all that stuff, because if I don't, there's no way I could do it.
Mm-hmm. Year-round commitment for sure.
Year-round, yeah. The only reason I do work out and do that stuff is for fishing. That's the only reason.
I don't mean to ask a depressing question, but have you thought about long-term, like what you're going to do as you get older? How are you going to do it forever?
What are you going to
do? Yeah, when are you going to buy a boat? Yeah, right.
One day at a time, Jerry.
Yeah,
one day at a time.
All right.
I don't know. I thought. I love guiding. I love it. So, I thought when I first started, I'm like, I'm going to retire at 50. Fuck, no. 50, man. I was fucking like, whoa, let's go. I'm ready. So.
It's funny you say you love the guiding. I see that in you. Like, it's something I've talked to a lot of surf casting guides that I know haven't stuck with it long. A couple of years for one reason or another, they get out of it. But you are just going with it. I commend you for sticking to it long, but I can see you do enjoy it. You legit enjoy doing that side of it, I believe.
Yeah, you're taking, even a fresh guy, a greenhorn, you take him out, he doesn't know anything. He's basically an upside down reeler. And all of a sudden, you teach him how to cast, teach him how to load the rod, finger placement, stance, shoulders, all that stuff. And all of a sudden they're casting. Oh, I feel it. Then you take them to the next level. Then you bring them out on the rocks and a wave hits them. And then you see their fucking eyes get, whoop, And you're like, oh, you got it, dude.
Yeah,
You know, you got the bug. I've corrupted many young men.
that's great. That's great. Um, Bill, you said something that actually gets to one of the questions I definitely wanted to ask you, and you were like, "Oh, you know, I'm on the rocks, and then I'm on the sand." Da, 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 da. When in the fall, for me, a lot of times it feels like there's too many options, and I admit, and this is something I haven't got to on the podcast, but I do in the seminars that I do. A lot of times it becomes almost it's hard to make a decision. Let me put it that way. How do you make a decision? Do you check every day the weather conditions and decide? Do you have a plan a few days ahead of time? Are you like, well, in a few 3 weeks from now, like, how do you make those decisions? First, that's the first part of the question.
Well, long-term decisions are obviously based on the moon. I'm fishing daily anyway, so the moon is the moon. But for people booking trips, it's, you know, they get the moon dates first.
But
So
how
it's
do you
all
decide?
around,
But how do you decide between? All right, I've got A, B, C, and D, and this
it's all
is
winds and tides.
okay.
It's winds, tides, bait, wind, tides, bait, wind, tides, bait. I
Hmm.
always tell my charters, I'm like, I don't move. It may appear that I'm just moving at random, but I don't move. Very rarely I'll just move on a gut feeling, or very rarely I'll move because Jerry tells me that there's fish at Rock A. You know,
Hmm.
I'll move because I don't trust anybody. The surfcasters are full of shit. They're all full of shit. Well, any good ones anyway. They get the
Yeah.
guys who aren't good. They're not full of shit. You know, so so I base everything on past. You know, on tides I know, winds I know, and where I fish, which is mostly Montauk. I mean, I fish all over the place. The amount of spots available to you in in like a 20-mile radius is ridiculous. You know, it's probably 1,000 maybe. You know, different. One spot can be. I always tell people this spot 8 foot wide. That spot can be good on the outgoing with southwest wind. 20 yards down the beach might be northeast wind with incoming. First of the end, not the last of the end, the first hour of the end. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
every spot's different, and I based everything on that. What wind do I have? And then I'll stop my car sometimes, and my mind's just fucking racing. You know, because I'm like, oh, I got this spot, I got this spot, I got this wind. Where are we gonna go? And we answer to your one question, yes, I do come in with a plan, but when I actually get out there and feel it, my plan often changes. Like
Mhm.
last night is a prime example. We were out, we had dirty water, and I knew there was fish at one spot on the north side of Montauk, and I'm like, dude, you know, there was fish here in the dirty water. I'm like, do you want to take a long walk? It's about a mile walk in, a mile walk out, and it's hot out. Let's take the walk in if you want, and we'll go for bigger fish, or we can go to the other spot where I know there's fish, but I don't know if they're going to be big, but we got a better shot at the big fish there. He's like, let's go for the big fish. So we took the walk. I wasn't expecting to do that at all that night. I had no plans to do that. So that happens all the time. You know, I change plans at a whim, but I got to have the right conditions for that spot that I'm going to, no matter
Now,
what.
I know from Surf Rats Ball, from your website, you've got a pretty extensive log. Are you, when you're looking forward, are you going through your log, or is a lot of that you've logged it in your mind? You know, how often do you refer when you're planning those things out, those trips out? Are you looking at your actual log versus sort of the, you know, the log in your head? I guess. Are you?
It's basically a log in my head.
Yeah.
That log, I look at it in the winter.
Hmm.
Like I'll go over it in the winter. I'm like, wow, look at this, look at that. Back in 2005 or 2007, look at this August, you know, and then I'll think how, 2024 compares to 2002 August. You
Yeah.
know, what happened then, what was different. And then, which I don't have, is like my 90s. How did that compare? I lost logs from
Oh,
like, I
Oh
started
no.
taking logs in like 1980 or something like that. I lost logs from 1980 to 2000 or something like that. I don't know where. I have no idea where they are. So I'd like to find
someone's
them though.
got them and they're just salivating over them.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's super sad. So you were just talking about when you're out there, you're changing pretty rapidly on a whim. I think this is something a lot of anglers struggle with, which is how do you know how long to stay in terms of like, all right, I got to stick it out this long because if I stay, there's a chance versus like, this isn't working. I got to go to plan B. How do you make the call? Is it just gut? I mean, or are you?
No, I'll tell you, like when I'm with a customer, say, typically I'm not going to stay in a spot as long as I would by myself.
Okay.
Because a couple reasons for that. You know, I'll hit a spot. Say it's I got southwest winds, high out water spot. We hit it, and say I got one guy, or say I got two guys. Say I do max two guys. So say I got two guys, and we do 15 casts each, or say 10 casts each. That's 30 casts with. I give them what I think works, and I'm fucking around with something else. That's 30 casts in a spot that should be producing on that tide, and I'm like, I'm not going to sit here forever with these guys for 3 fucking hours and catch nothing. Time to move. So there's so many choices with so many tides that I have, and boom, I'll go hit somewhere else. You know, unless we have a hit or two, and that'd change things. If I'm by myself, what I'm usually doing is fishing for bigger fish. So when I'm fishing for bigger fish, and I know there's bait in the area, a lot of times I'll stick that out. Like if I got 2-hour slot in a tide or a 3-hour slot, I'll stick out to 3 hours, you know, and maybe I'll go through some schoolies in those 3 hours, and you know, and maybe I'll pop something big.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
when I get the fish alone, or if I get a guy, and we're doing a trophy trip and that's what he wants to do, then that's what we do. And I warn him, I'm like, dude, it's gonna be boring.
Yeah. Right.
Well, maybe not boring because you're going to be on a rock probably getting beat up a little bit, but, you know.
Not going to be as productive over the
long
term. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. That was a great answer. That's exactly what I was wondering. Interesting. Yeah.
I'd like to, I mean, you kind of mentioned it in there, but I mean, on reports, if obviously you said, you know, surf fishermen lie. We know that, but it's hard still. If you know something or you hear something's going on, do you just, I mean, earmuffs, I don't listen. I try my best not to let that affect my decisions, either, you know, in advance, on the fly, or do you let that seep in sometimes? I mean, do you have maybe trusted?
How can you not? You know, I definitely, I mean, somebody tells me, I'm like, oh shit. But most of the time, like, they'll tell me, oh yeah, there's a bite going on here. I can't go there anyway. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me because I'm booked up. I'm booked in Montauk. That's where I'm booked. Mm-hmm. So we're going to Montauk, or we're going wherever, or the North Shore, or the South Shore. It doesn't, unless I can tell the dude, I'm like, listen, there's a bite going on here, and I got good information. I know it's true, and I know that area very well. If somebody tells me something, I don't know the area. I'd never take a person to an area that I don't know. Mm-hmm. I gotta know the area to me very well. Very well. Like I remember I used to fish. People used to want to fish mariches. When I first started out, I fished mariches a lot, but to me, not enough. Not for me. Not for me to take. I mean, I could have took somebody out there back then. But it wasn't like back then. I would always say, I fished it maybe 100 times. So 100 times is not fucking enough to me,
So that's a really interesting thing. I mean, that's a very interesting point, Bill, that I think you probably blew just some people's minds, because I don't think that's another thing that's dying is guys do not own like that. They don't own a spot and fish that many. They want to bounce more. And, I think that patterns are very, very important to you, and not chasing a bite. Is that what you're saying? I mean, I just want to make it very clear, because you said, well, I pay attention to bites, pay attention to what people are saying.
Well, what I'm saying with what I just said is, I mean, that's important, but patterns seem to be less consistent than what they used to be. So patterns are more difficult to find, unless July and August, you find more patterns. Early September, you find more patterns. And October, November, the patterns are very short, if any, that you can find. But the reason I was saying that is, what was I saying? I'm freaking lost. What was that? What was
Well,
the question again?
it's okay because
There was a reason. I had a point, but I forgot my point.
With chasing.
Chasing. Yeah, with chasing.
Yeah. Yeah, it was in regards to chasing the spots you didn't have the familiarity with.
It doesn't matter. I want to ask another question anyways. I want to follow up. So saying that, what you just said, it's harder to find patterns today. If I was someone listening to this and say, you know what, I want to surf fish the right way. I'm air quoting because we all kind of agree, but people disagree with us. If I want to fish the right way and I want to find a pattern, how do they do that, Bill? What do they do? Where do they get started in finding their pattern?
Here's what I tell people to do. I mean, people may have different opinions, whatever, but this is what I say. I say, find an area that looks very fishy to you in the area that you live, and start fishing it. Not only start fishing it, fish it every night, every day, every morning, whenever you get a chance. I mean, I realize you got kids or you're younger, you're going out partying, whatever you're doing, but you got to get out there and fish all the moon phases, all the tides, fish in the rain, fish in the northwest, fish in the northeast, a southwest, a southwest during a new moon, a southwest during a full moon, every fucking scenario till you get it down. And then start branching out. Maybe fish it for a couple years, really. I mean, you can branch out, obviously, while you're doing that. But if you learn one area down pat, all of a sudden, and you start understand the structure of that area. Maybe it's a point and there's some troughs there, or there's some rocks, and maybe on one side of the rock is deeper than the other side of the rock. And to drop your bucktail, just slow it down a little bit when it gets to that deeper water on the other side of the rock. Shit like that. If you can understand that in your area, when you go to other areas, say all of a sudden you want to branch out and go to freaking Cuddyhunk or Montauk or wherever you want to go, I mean, you're going to have a way quicker and better understanding of another person who's just chasing reports. You know what I mean? You're going to, because you put in the time of your spot and you can transfer what you've learned to other areas. And all of a sudden, like people have a hard time reading water. All of a sudden, you'll just look at a fucking beach and you'll be like, bang, it just clicks. You know what? It's like a light bulb. It's like, bang, I didn't know how to read this before, but now I see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so that's great. How much failure should they expect in that first couple of years when they're trying to do what you just told them to do?
A shitload. That's all you do is fail. I mean, that's all you do is fucking fail.
You're going to spend, most nights, half nights, some nights of failure.
It depends on the area and how good it is, Really, I mean, if you haven't caught a fish in like 6 months in the area, it's time maybe to find another.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not so good.
But the point is, you're going to go through a lot of skunks, and throughout the season, there's going to be a lot of nights.
Yeah, I mean, you might. I remember when I was like 13 years old, like I knew how to fish. I knew how to surf it. I just started learning how to surf. I grew up on freshwater, but I just started learning how to surf fish. And I remember, like, the bottle plug. It like, what the fuck? Like, this is the shit that you got to learn. I'm like, people kept on talking about a bottle plug. In my area, there wasn't any current. And I cast it out, and I just start retrieving it slow. Like, this shit, it doesn't do anything. What the fuck is this? I don't get it. And then it took me, I don't know, probably reading or, maybe just reeling it fast. I'm like, wow, this might work in a current, and, it just takes that, it's just, that's what it takes. I mean, that's what it took me. I mean, now you can look at everything up on the internet, but,
But do you think
built the right foundation, the foundation of the learning experiences along the way that a lot of anglers aren't really getting these days.
Right. I think so. I think you're right, Toby.
So when we were talking earlier, you'd mentioned the smell when you start knowing the fall run is starting, and I love that's like the first thing you said, because I think last year I wrote about that in Surfcasters Journal. The smell, the smell of the fall and
you
the
get
surf.
That smell, man. You feel that. It's a weird, it's a weird air. It's like the air's different. You feel it. It's almost like in the spring when the forsythias come out. The forsythias come out, I'm like, whoa, the bass are starting. But in the fall, it's that air. You just, and then you go down, and it's just like The water looks different. The sky looks different. I don't know what looks different about it exactly, but it's just the feeling. Like I always thought. Here's what I always thought: this, if somebody like if I was in outer space and I was not on Earth, and somebody fucking dropped me off like in the early fall, and I didn't know if it was summer, winter, fall, or spring. Would I know it was fall just by that feeling? And I think I would.
I think you would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get me all jazzed up because I can feel it.
Right?
I can kind of feel it.
When you get that smell, I so relate that. What's the first thing you do when you realize, okay, you've got that smell, you know the calendar's right, the fall run is here? What's the first thing you do? Do you change something about where you might be going? Is it time to now adjust your approach to the surf in any way? Is there any adjustments that you make?
Well, you got to realize it's not like I'm, I'm not like a normal fisherman. I'm a guide, So it's a little bit different for me. So like adjusting it is, I basically fucking panic because all my shit looks like this. It looks like this. Look at this box. This is how it looks.
So he's showing a box filled with lures.
All jumbled together for the listeners.
I'm like, oh my God, I got a billion fucking charters coming up, and I gotta have everything perfection ready. I gotta put my bed in my truck. It is time. Get the bed in the truck, clean out the truck, have all the plugs ready. Make sure everything's perfection because, I just went from from spring to summer, and I've been changing hooks along the way, but I'm not ready. And then I gotta spend like couple of days just getting all the hooks changed and everything else, so
but what about your actual fishing? Is there anything that you're like, all right, it's time to start doing this, or it's time to stop doing that? I mean, is there something?
Well, I fish in the day more.
Okay.
I fish in the day more.
Okay.
I mean, because I'm praying, it's funny because now I'm praying for the blitzes, right? Back in the day, when I would, especially before I became a guide, I looked down on blitz fishermen. I didn't really look down on them. I would be like, you're a fucking blitz fisherman. Get the fuck away, like just busting balls, basically.
Yes.
You're a blitz fisherman. What's wrong with blitz fishing, Bill?
Yeah.
I would fish all night. I would just fish at night,
right.
And like there'd be like acres and acres of bass during the day, and most of the time I'd be like, you can have your daytime. Now, since there's nothing, I'm like, I'm praying for it. Please, God, just put me into a blitz of 8 to 12 pound schoolies.
Now, when you're looking for those blitzes, you're hoping that they're coming along. Do you think is it more luck that you're bumping into them, or word of mouth, or do you think there's something?
Absolutely not. That's the myth. It's not luck. It's based on tides. They're coming in on tides. The bait will be the fish will push the white bait on certain tides.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can get there and you can just come in, and people call it stupid fishing, what pisses me off. Because you get there and these guys say from Manhattan, they'll come there. Oh, this is the easiest friggin' fishing in the world because they walked right into it. You know what I mean? You just happen to walk into it, dude. You have no idea that you walked into the right tide at the right time.
That's right.
Because when say it's an area where it's incoming water. Well, as soon as that incoming water stops at night and it goes out, that switches. It turns off. That blitz will turn off, and you're gonna have to wait for another fucking week until the incoming water starts in that area to see another blitz in that area.
Yeah. So you can put all this in your log and pattern blitzes. You can be like, all right, when these 3 things happen, there's probably going to be a blitz, the same way you would do if you were hunting a 25 for 30 pound fish at night. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but I'm not. In today's fishery, it's not like that. But they're still coming in on tides. Right. They're still pushing bait on tides.
It's not random. People with blitzes is what I think what Toby's getting to. I'm going to put words in your mouth, Toby. Is that like guys think blitz fishing is just driving down the beach or walking down to the shore and looking for birds. That's not how you treat it. You're really thinking about more of
tides,
right?
Yeah,
and wind.
You're hunting
wind.
You're hunting the conditions that are going to
tides. I'm going to go where they're most likely going to be a blitz. Now, are there going to be a blitzes when it's not that most likely scenario? sometimes, but more often than not, no. So, you want to, the thing I feel that you need to do is you need to increase your chances.
Mm.
Always with winds and tides. And,
Now you mentioned, you said there, you're praying for that 12, the schoolie to 12, 15-pound Blitz fish. When you're on that size class fish, let's say like your average, you're topping out 15. Do you think there's big, like legit big fish mixed in and you're just not getting to them because of the volume of fish in front of you? Or do you think it's just, there's the small fish there and that's what's there?
People will say, this is what they used to say, and you read shit. This is bullshit. So they'll say, oh, you got to get underneath the blues to get to the big bass. Shut the fuck up.
I knew you were going to say
that.
I
don't even know what you're talking about. It's nonsense. You know what's underneath the bluefish? Bluefish.
More bluefish.
More bluefish and dogfish.
Right. That's what's on them. You're never going to get under them, ever. And in schoolies, you got to get underneath the schoolies. I mean, come on, man. It's a class of fish. Class of fish travel with each other. They, 8 to 10 pound fish travel with 8 to 10 pound fish. You may have, like, if it's a holding pattern, you may have, like, some slobs, like here's the 8 to 12 pound fish, and they're in the shallow water, and it drops off right there, and the slobs are right in that area, right in the same area. Mm-hmm. But rarely you'll see blitzing when they're frothing, and they're all 8 to 12 pound fish, and some guy pops a 50. Mm-hmm. I actually saw that once. I couldn't believe it. Like, this was back in like the 80s, and there was fish all up in, maybe it was even early 90s. I don't know, late 80s, early 90s. I remember I walked. Oh my God, I had fish all night and I fished all morning. It must have been like noontime, and it was fish up and down all over the south side of Montauk, and it was basically 8 to 12 pounds, 15 pounds, And I'm walking along, and there's this guy sitting there in shorts. And he had a Danny plug on, and he had like a 55 fucking pound bass. And he looks at me, and he goes, shh. I'm like, shh. Like, there's 100 people here. Are you kidding me? You got a 5 pound bass laying here. Like, who's not going to see that?
Yeah.
But that was the only, like, huge fish I've ever seen come out of a Blitz. I have never caught a huge fish. 36, 40 inches, sometimes in a Blitz. After you caught like 70 or 80 or 90 fish, you might catch one like, 20 pounds, maybe. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So you're thinking if you're caring about catching those bigger fish, you're not going to sort through the small ones. You got to go find the big fish, is what you're saying.
In general.
Yeah.
In general.
Specifically with the blitzes I'm talking about.
Especially in the fall, specifically with the blitzes, because in the summer, in like August, the resident small fish will mix with the larger fish, at least around here. They'll mix with the larger fish. So if I find the smaller fish, I know that they're on bait. I know that it's smaller fish, boom, they're on bait. I'll fish, I can fish here for bigger fish. I found this, but in September when the migrators come in, the migrators will not mix with those bigger fish. So if I'm just fishing for bigger fish, I move, if I'm on the migrators. And they're migrators because the hits are more numerous, and they're harder. They fight different. They look different. A lot of times they're lighter in color. The resident fish are darker in color because of the rocks.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's cool. So to wrap up this conversation, this is kind of a hard thing to talk about because the fall run is just starting when this is coming out. For some people, it's not really even starting at all. It's got a few more weeks. But what signs do you look for to show that the fall is wrapping up? And what the hell do you do?
Oh, it's signs that fall. Oh, wrapping up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on its
like
last
it's on
node.
You're like, it looks like it might be starting to wind down. I have to do this. What do I got to do? What do you do?
Oh my God, I don't know, man. Sometimes like the end of November, early December, you're so burnt, from fishing hard. It was just like, oh my God, thank God it's ending. Yes. And then when it ends, you're like crying.
Depression sets in.
You're like, oh my God, what am I gonna do with my life? It's like my wife always says, you're the same way all the time. You get depressed.
Yes.
Every December
Yes.
And and then every spring, like when the fishing season starts, what did she say about the spring? Something about the spring, that because I'm upset because the ski season is ending. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, and I guess I do. I get like, I go through. At first, I want it to end because I'm so, tired.
You're so burnt
My
out.
hands
Yeah.
are fucking. I'm sure your hands are all callous too. Your hands are all callous and cut up, and you're just toast, man. You're mentally toast. You're physically drained. And but then sometimes, if you get a warm like November, you'll get really good bites in early. I've had really good bites in early December. I think if you go back in my log in 2005, I believe, was the last really good December bite that we had, and that was a big herring bite. If there's a herring, you just you just can't stop, dude. I mean, herring bites are the best. They're absolute my favorite bait of the fish.
Hmm.
When if there's a herring bite, out of all the bait, they fucking dude, when they hit on a herring bite, like they'll smack a dart, it's like, bam, they fucking smack it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's not they don't even smack it. It's not a smack. It's just like somebody put a freaking hammer on your plug and just bam.
They're killing it. No
Yeah,
mistake.
they're eating it. Right.
Kill it.
They're
It's
not
not
just,
like a summer fish where it's like pink.
yeah.
Okay. They're just back. They got the big herring belly.
Hmm.
I freaking love that.
I've
Man.
heard
But,
I've heard you talk about that a lot, but it hasn't happened much recently.
no,
No.
but it's so good. I look for it every year. I'm gonna go here and look for the herring bite, and it never fucking happens. My theory is this: nobody fishes that bite anymore, right?
Right.
I think it still happens, but since everybody's like packing it in and throwing their fucking Avas on the sand beaches,
Hmm.
nobody wants to fish at night all night long in late November, early December anymore. So I think it still happens, but nobody finds it, or very few find it, and the few who do find it aren't telling.
Yeah.
Well,
You
there
know,
was a story I read a couple of years ago, quite a while back. I think it was like in the Fisherman, and it was titled something. It was a late fall article, something to the effect of like, "What if the stripers threw a blitz and no one showed up for it?" Like that same idea.
right? Yeah.
I think
Same
that in the
thing,
fall
right?
with the herring from time to
Right.
time as well.
Do you get herring? Do you get herring bites up there?
It's been a while. We used to get them in Rhode Island.
In Rhode Island,
Rhode
yeah.
Island would hit them.
Even
I
into
can't-
November, right, Toby? I mean, they used to
Oh, yeah.
deep into November. Deep.
Yeah, it was always in November. Once November would kick around, I mean, going, like Thanksgiving week,
Right.
that's when it would happen in South
Yeah,
County.
Thanksgiving week. Yeah,
Yep.
us too. Thanksgiving
Yeah.
week, Montauk parking lot would be packed. Now you go to Montauk parking lot Thanksgiving weekend. There's not even a car in there, not even a truck, nobody. I'm the only one. Still praying that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
So, aside from the calendar, I mean, is there, like relate it back to that smell? Is there a sign? Is there a some sort of a trigger that you see that tells you, or is it really just like I'm exhausted?
That's it.
It's November. I just know.
My charters are done. Things are. I'm beat. The truck is fucked up. It's it's a combination.
Your body
of a lot
tells
of
you.
things. Body tells me, and the fish. I'm going out night after night. And I could. Here's this thing. I could continue to catch fish probably until at least mid-December, if I went and I did what everybody else does, which is throw like tins on a sand beach and catch fucking fish about this big, and maybe you get lucky and catch some bigger ones. But I don't, at the end of the season, for me, it's like, okay, especially I'm fishing alone a lot because the charters aren't coming out, so I get to fish alone. For me, it's basically I'm gonna catch a big fish, or else that's gonna be it. I'll pound it for a big fish, and if I have to go out in 29-degree weather with a wind in my face, I'll do that. And you know what? If you get into if I get in, just think, all these years, there's been years I haven't had a herring bite. Just think, if you get into a herring bite at like the end of November, early December, after all those years of not, and there's nobody fucking around, how gratifying that would be. It would
Yeah.
be like, I would. I mean, oh my God, it'd be like a lifetime of memories if you did it. You'd be like, whoa, shit, man, there was nobody there. I had him to myself. Every fish, 30 fucking pounds on darters. It's like, oh. And you did it by yourself, nobody else.
Yeah. I want to hear that this fall, your Instagram live when you're driving home, that you found it this year.
On December 3rd
God,
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It probably won't happen, but there's always hope.
I hope for it.
Yeah. Well, Bill, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate this. This will definitely not be the last time we have you on. We love having you. I love talking. We haven't had you on yet. I love talking to you in our conversations before. You're one of the guys I look up to the most because of exactly what you're talking about. That mentality of owning the spot, fishing through the hard times, making it your own, staying through that. And the other thing that I love about you is your enthusiasm. You've never lost the enthusiasm. And there's so many guys who come and go. And it's the straight through. And I hope that people can hear that in your voice through this conversation and all the others. And that when it's hard this season, because it's been really hard for a lot of us, that they think about you yelling at your Instagram camera and getting psyched about fishing, even when it's been really bad for you too. So that's something I really appreciate. So I wanted to say thank you for that. So I'll throw it over to Toby.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you coming on today. I mean, this was a lot of fun. We're recording it before the fall run's going, but I'm starting to get jazzed up already for the fall run. And I hope the listeners get that as well. Because like Jerry said, the excitement that you're coming through really shows the passion that you have for the surf, for the fall, for all of this. And I appreciate you being able to share that with everybody. And I can't wait to have you back on again. Maybe we could do a short episode one of these days, either talking about the big herring blitz that you had, or we can debate the merits of the white flashlight versus the red flashlight in the surf. We'll see where it goes. But,
the red flashlight. I tell you, the red flashlights. I mean, I get why people use them because they don't. But to me, if you're out on a rock and you're taking off the fish, I want the sun, man. I just want something bright as possible. Have you ever got a hook in your hands? So many.
Oh yeah.
Like, I don't want to take a chance with a little red light. I can't see anything.
So maybe this is a future debate, Toby.
Yeah. So every time I see a bright light coming across Long Island Sound, in the back of my mind, I was like, I wonder if that's Bill.
There's that dickhead with the light on again.
That's exactly right. Well, thanks a lot, Bill, and we'll have you on again soon.
All right, boys. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
This has been a weekly edition of the Surfcast Podcast. You can find out more about the podcast at surfcastpodcast.com, or definitely check us out on social media, Facebook, Instagram, at the Surfcast Podcast.